Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Shonen Jam podcast. The podcast where we talk about manga, the Weekly Shonen Jump manga. I'm Kage. I make YouTube videos. I make video games, and I do music.
And I am Jibaro Premium. I do nothing for the moment. This is our first official episode of the Weekly Shonen Jam podcast. Last week was kind of a one shot. In this episode, we only had one main topic we were going to talk about, and that is to answer the question, what is manga? Why are we calling this manga shonen? And specifically, why are we talking about Shonen Jump? And then two things happen, and now we have like three little topics we have to talk about besides discussing our weekly. One of them being very important news. Would you like to share the important news?
Oh, Shaman King manga, my favorite manga, or one of my favorite mangas, is being coming back to the West, and it's about to be finished. Notoriously didn't get finished because they kicked Hiroyuki Takei the fuck out of Jump.
The other bit of news being Haikyuu, the volleyball manga, just finished this week.
We're gonna talk a little
Okay.
bit about that. Talk a little bit about Haikyuu, and we read a couple of chapters. It's good so far. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
Okay. So I'm gonna have you explain what manga is. You don't have to go super, technical. And after you do that, I'm gonna go with like what is Jump and how Jump works. Not the process, but like the series are collected in Jump and blah blah blah.
Manga is Japanese comic books, usually in a black and white color palette. They were created after World War II by Tezuka. Tezuka was the first mangaka of Japan. He created Astro Boy, which I think it's like Future Boy or something like that. Japan. Usually, his manga usually had like a nuclear power theme going on. I wonder why, right? After WW2, um, and it has that the medium has just evolved from there. With anime being like a usually being based off of manga as source material, much like how movies in America are based off of books.
There are several types or categories for manga, but we specifically like to talk about the shonen genre. Can you explain what shonen is?
So shonen isn't really a genre; it's more of like a demographic. Shonen in Japanese translates to like young boy. Usually, these mangas have young boys going on an adventure, doing or doing sports, as we'll talk about later today. Sometimes fighting or doing martial arts. Basically, shonen is just any type of manga that is marketed towards young boys from the ages of like 13 to 18. I think that's the shonen demographic.
I can tell you exactly what the current demographic is. Because it used to be a bit more towards like 8-year-olds to 15-year-olds. But if one actually reads manga, we'll have one episode about some of the content in those mangas is not really for little kids anymore. So, Weekly Shonen Jump is one of the most popular manga magazines. Jump is produced by a company called Shueisha. So does a bunch of like female-oriented manga magazines, regular magazines, monthly books as well. So the contents of a Weekly Shonen Jump magazine is a collection of several works by different authors and artists. So each week, uh, all of the series that are being published are going to get one new chapter. I believe there are currently 22 series being published in that book. Mainly, the genre of those series is action, adventure, fighting, and or comedy. One thing they do after the weekly magazine is they collect 8 to 10 chapters of each series, and they bound that into an individual book. That's what we call a tankobon, or volumes here in the states. So everyone's aware. Some of the most popular Jump series are Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. So Kage, why do you think that Jump is so successful?
I think Jump is successful because, at least in America, I think it is something different from a lot of American superhero comics. Most of these are just long narratives about one specific character, and you get to see that character have an arc over time. Shonen Jump is really good about having these three themes, or pillars, I should say: friendship, effort, and victory. And these are very wide reaching themes and very easily applicable themes that can touch so many people. And I think because of that, whether their manga is a volleyball manga or about some pirates outrunning the world government, they all have this sense of friends triumphing together.
Yes, one of the primary differences between mainstream American comics and the Japanese manga is in your Western comic books, the characters were created by someone, but as time goes by, a new team of an artist and a writer tackle the character. In manga, almost all of the time, it's just a story created by its original author, and the author decides where he wants to go with the series and what's going to happen. So I'm going to say, for example, Batman. Batman is written by this guy, but he has to adhere to a bunch of other comic books. He doesn't have that much freedom to, like, oh, I'm just gonna go kill Batman this chapter. Because one, we need to sell Batman, and Batman needs to show up in like 19 more series. Unless they do like a specific crossover, you're never gonna see Naruto like fighting Luffy or something like that. So Kage, could you give us an example of what you just said about friendship, effort, and victory from a series you're particularly fond of the Jump catalog?
Sure. Could talk about One Piece. So in One Piece, the main character is a pirate that wants to find the mythical treasure, the One Piece. And to do this, he assembles a crew of people. He has a cook, he has a navigator, he has a swordsman, he has a musician, he has a doctor, he has an archaeologist, he has a sniper, he has what's Frankie? Craftsman or something like that. But through these characters, they're able to. There's a big part in that series where he says by himself he is unable to like brave the sea and and just be a pirate by himself because he's a dumbass. But he can't brave the sea by himself, so he needs his crew to help him overcome the challenges ahead of him lying on the sea. And we get to see that across the series as he builds this crew and as they take on more dangerous pirates or the threat of the world government, this like all opposing force that basically rules over their world. And by acquiring these people, he is able to overcome the challenges and push forward into more challenges, which he is able to overcome, and then so on and so forth. Jump kind of works in like a cyclical manner of that until the story ends. Basically, manga is supposed to go on until it cannot go on anymore.
Okay. One thing with Luffy is he's not only acquiring these people based on their skill sets, he actually likes and befriends these people, and he enjoys the fact that the journey, the adventure is with these people.
Right, right. They're all friends. They are all bros on the ship, on their pirate ship, and they all hang out and have goofy fun times and make faces at each other and have big old parties. It's there's a big emphasis on the friendship of these people on the crew. Very much right.
So a thing that happened this week was the ending of Haikyuu, the very popular volleyball manga. Neither me or Kage had read the series before. We were planning on it, but we haven't had the chance to read it yet. Since it finished, it's like a weight off because I don't have to catch up to it right now to be able to speak about it on the podcast. We went ahead and came up with this idea of what if we read the first three chapters and imagine what the series is gonna look like or what the series will go during its like 400 plus chapters. Do you care to go first, Kage?
Sure, I can go first. So I started reading Haikyuu just as Hibaro did, and I like it. I like it a lot. The main character, Soya, I believe that's his name. He's
I think it's Shoyo.
or Shoyo. He's very spirited. He seems like he fits right in place as a jump protagonist. He has some set goals. He has some like flaws, some difficulties, where he's like short, but he wants to play with the big volleyball boys. Um, and it's good. And he has a very good and defined rival. Him and the rival both seem to, they have a good tension, but there's like a twist. Like in a conventional series, the rival and the main boy would be on opposite sides, but in this series, they're on the same team and they have to work together to both achieve their dreams and the dreams of the volleyball team that they both join at this new high school that they start at together. Uh, it seems like it from what I can tell, they're setting up this goal that the volleyball team has of winning a championship. I assume before they graduate, the older members of the volleyball team. I look forward to reading more to see if they make it happen.
Okay, I wanted to ask you how much. First of all, Kage, do you even like sports?
I do not like sports.
So, me neither. I don't. I'm not particularly fond of sports, although I am a fan of like sports movies.
Mhm.
And while reading Haikyuu, I understood why. It's the vehicle of a sports movie of effort, friendship, and victory
Mhm.
is very compelling and very effective.
Right.
So I have just a little bit more experience reading sports manga and or watching sports anime.
Mhm.
The We got into the school, we got into the sports club. We need to get to nationals. It's like the driving point of all sports manga.
Mhm. Reminds me a lot of Remember the Titans, where it's like a bunch of these characters that don't give a shit about each other, or at least the main rival and the main boy. But through playing the sports, they're going to be able to understand one another and work together and all of that. And that's pretty much a big framework for those sports stories.
hmm Even not a serious movie like The Longest Yard. It's a silly movie with Adam Sandler. I'm talking about the remake, not the original.
Yes.
You still have a bunch of misfits joining towards a greater goal of playing a sports game. It's effective.
Hmm.
So what I liked from Haikyuu is I'm getting major slam dunk vibes.
Okay.
I know Kage hasn't seen slam dunk.
Mm-mm.
Uh, shame on you. Best sports manga ever created. Because in Slam Dunk, the main character has a similar rivalry with the pretty boy character, where you think like, oh no, I need to beat this guy, I need to be better than him, but we're partners.
Mm-hmm.
And that really affects the dynamic of we're gonna eventually have to learn how to play together to succeed
Right.
because we're both very talented. We're getting our powers levels raised in whatever sports version of power levels are, and
Stats.
I can see that in Haikyuu. One thing is thing that makes a great rival is or an antagonist is the he is just like your main character except the reverse.
Yes.
So the main boy Shoujo Hinata, it's like he's never played sports. He's a newbie, but he really wants to play sports. So he doesn't have the technique. He doesn't have the knowledge, but he has the innate ability of being the main character, right? So he has like a secret power. The other boy, remember his name, but they call him the king of the court. It's he's super talented. He could be the best player, but he wants to tackle every part of the game by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Shoyo is like trying to, like be part of the team. So we're gonna see that dynamic of them joining each other and being better. So Kage, what would be your prediction of where this series is gonna go?
I think the rival boy and the main character are going to get along. Where I stopped, I don't remember if this was chapter 3 or if I read a little bit farther. The team that they both joined, they kicked them out of the gym, and they're telling them that they're going to have to work together to beat some of the other teammates because the rival boy and the main character they basically caused like a little disturbance once they met up and at practice. So they're gonna have to like figure out how to work as a team and do some team building before they can actually start playing as a team at playing real volleyball for reals. And so I'm liking where that arc is going. I'm very curious to read more of it.
Do you think this series is gonna end at like their first nationals, or it's gonna go beyond that?
I don't know because I guess it depends on. Do you think it could end with because both main character and rival boy are both first years in high school? It could end with them graduating. So I mean, it's like 400 chapters deep, right? It could end with that.
Yep, the bit of information we don't know yet because we haven't read it is how long does it take for a game?
Right, right.
Because
Even
if
I
if
haven't gotten
if
there yet.
if they're going with the normal sports tournament structure, they're gonna have a bunch of games
Okay.
without knowing how long they take. Taking into account these 400 chapters,
Hmm.
so I can't like pinpoint if they're gonna just make it to nationals or go beyond.
Hmm.
An
So.
example being like Captain Subasa. I know they're like a local team, and I think they end up playing like on the world stage. I
Hmm.
don't think it's gonna go that far. They might make it to nationals, and they might play like then I don't know best of Japan against some rivals from like uh, America or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
So my what I think would happen eventually is the bad boy is gonna go Sasuke and he's gonna leave the team,
Ooh.
and
Okay.
eventually he's gonna have to face main character,
Okay.
and after they do, he's gonna come back like, oh, now we understand each other. You were able to beat me.
It's a jump manga. That could happen. I did get a lot of Naruto and Sasuke vibes from these two main characters. I don't know though. I don't know if they'll go in that direction. It might, might pull a My Hero on us, and they're just rivals for the rest of the manga. They're on the same team, but they're like pushing each other along the way. I think that would be like a really interesting way to go as well. They're working, they're working together, and each one's getting a little better because the other one is there pushing them and getting better. So they're and at the end of the story, maybe that's when they face off. That's when they finally have their rematch. Although volleyball is not really a one-on-one sport, I don't know how that would work, but they would be able to have their final match of this is what the story's been building to this whole time. That's where I think it's gonna go, at least. If the other happens, that he does like a heel turn and like, aha, I'm evil now, I'm gonna join the evil school now. It's like, sure, that's cool too.
It is. It is very interesting to see how volleyball is going to be portrayed as a battle and or sport. Because if you think basketball series, well, it's also a team sport, but it's easier to understand. Oh, this guy can run really, really fast.
Right.
You expect the center to be able to jump really, really high. And something like Prince of Tennis, they did have like double games, but each character had like its own individual shot, and it was mostly like one-on-ones.
Right.
But you do need a team to play volleyball. But one thing I like so far, no female characters, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it as the things that's driving shoujo. It's not, oh, I'm in love with girl. I like sometimes there's a girl I like, and part of my journey is to get the girl to like me. It's good to see that he's in it for the sport, solely for the sport.
Right. He's very determined. I also look forward to a lot of manga, a lot of current manga have that like inspirational character, the character that inspired the main character to be that person. You got Deku with All Might, you got Naruto with the Kages or Iruka, you have I'm sure there's someone I'm forgetting. You have the JoJos with their
Luffy with Shanks.
that's the one that I had in my head in the beginning. You have the JoJos with at least part 4 and part 5 with their inspirations, but I don't know if he'll meet the Little Giant, but I kind of hope he does, because that would be interesting. I don't want him to like play the Little Giant or anything like that, but it would be, I don't know, it would be interesting to see this character meet the person that inspired him, to jump high, right? To want to be a small volleyball player. So I'm very curious to see if anything comes of that, or it's just like this is his inspiration and that's the end of it.
So closing on Haikyuu, Kage, you think Jump needs to come up with a new sports series?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think Act Age. We've been talking a little bit about Act Age off podcast. I think Act Age is like a good substitute for that. Act Age and maybe Stone, since Stone started a little bit after. These are these like mangas that have battles in them. I assume one day we'll talk about the non-battle mangas, but these are these kind of mangas that don't have battles in them, but they rely on how the art is conveyed to show like competition, or how at least in Stone's case, it's the power of like working together, as we were talking about friendship, effort, and victory. But like unlike a One Piece, where there is very physical combat happening in that series, and like a Stone and an Act Age, there's not. It's more about like the power of the collective. Well, not Act Age, but Stone is more about the power of the collective. So I don't think so. I'm sure I mean, sports manga sells, right? Sports manga sells, like sports documentaries and sports movies sell. So of course, I'm sure they can, but I don't think they need to.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think like the Starks in Winterfell, there always has to be a sports manga in Jump. I do believe there should only be one sports manga ongoing at any point.
Okay.
It's because the national championship structure is too similar. And you don't really want to be reading your basketball team in nationals and your baseball team in nationals.
So here's a question for you. I know you like '90s anime and '90s manga. Slam Dunk and Yu-Gi-Oh were running at the same time. Do you consider Yu-Gi-Oh a sports manga?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh would be like what you're trying to describe Dr. Stone and Act H to be.
Okay. I see.
The outside of the norm battle non-battle shonen.
Okay.
Not that long ago, Jump had a series called Beast Children. Beast Children was a rugby manga. So at least here in the States and for me as a Latino, we don't care about rugby. I don't know how rugby is played. I don't understand the rules. Honestly, I don't care. But it had everything we're lauding for Haikyuu. You had this physically inferior main character that's really into the game. He really wants to play. He gets into the team. The team, man, they just love this kid. There's a lot of physicality while playing the sports. I love that. I love that series. I remember telling Kage like every week, man, this is the best worst series I've read. Also, in Japan, they really like soccer. They're really into their sports. They're really into their sports club in high school. I don't see why you wouldn't pander to that demographic.
I was gonna say I remember you really, really liking Beast Children and Robot X Laser Beam or Robot Laser Beam, and being very bummed when both of them ended up getting canned.
And yeah, thank you for mentioning Robot Laser Beam. I almost forgot about it. It is kind of a boring manga. It is about golf. They managed to make it. It was something about it. It's that Jump recipe of friendship, effort, and victory.
And now we're gonna talk about the weekly highlights. In this section, we each bring two manga to the table from this week that we thought were very good, and we're gonna discuss about them.
Okay, so I want to start with One Piece. Oh, and of course, everyone, spoilers alerts. We're gonna be talking about up-to-date manga. So we last week we got a break from One Piece because Shonen Jump is really taking care of Oda. They don't want Oda to get sick or die. Uh, Oda has been officially by the picture. One Piece has been running for 23 years.
Happy 23 birthday, One Piece. I'm older than One Piece. Yay.
Just by a little, Kage. So currently, the boys are in the middle of the Wano arc. Man, Wano is chaos. It's just chaos. Everyone is there. Almost all of the worst generation is there. Two Jonkos are there. Luffy keeps like getting into situations where he is like physically outmatched. So the highlight for the chapter this week is I think we're finally gonna get into the final part of the Jonko arc because Kaido and Big Mom essentially took over Wano and they declared, fuck everyone, we're gonna go for the One Piece. What I think this development is gonna do is we're finally gonna get the admirals on the scene. That they're gonna they can't just let these pirates run free anymore. Not with the Big Mom Kaido combo. And it's an avenue to reintroduce Blackbeard as a threat. What do you think, Kage?
Uh, I'm curious why you think the admirals will be on the scene because I guess you're saying you're talking about them uh, actively going for the One Piece now and the ancient weapons.
So if you'll allow me, I'll explain it better.
Go for it.
I think boys are gonna lose Wano, and Kaido and Big Mom are gonna leave Wano as the victors, And at that point, the admirals are going to have to step up and try to stop the Yonko from taking control of the world,
Okay.
while Luffy and crew do their other thing and get stronger.
I agree to that. I agree to that. I've been watching a lot of theory videos of One Piece because I love One Piece, and I've seen like people talking about, yes, Luffy and the boys are gonna lose at Wano. Everything is just going their way super easily right now. They're not really, struggling or anything like that.
Well, Luffy is kind of struggling against everyone.
Well, I mean, struggling in a way like they just kind of like walked into Onigashima like, fuck it, whatever. Sanji's dancing around the brothel trying to find the prostitutes or whatever, like um, uh, uh, Nami and Carrot, are have been captured by Big Mom, and Zeus has been taken again. And Kanjiro's deceit is he's like stopping. That's like the first page of the chapter. He's stopped the red scabbards, but I think they're setting up for of course they're like engaging in battle, but I don't think like Luffy fought what was it Ulti and Page One last chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like him fighting. How do I even say this? It wasn't like him fighting Don Krieg, or even I'm trying to think of like people he's like kind of struggled against. He didn't really struggle against Arlong. He struggled a little bit against Don Krieg.
Yeah, but he was gonna use Gear Fort.
Oh, he was going to use Gear Fourth on Ulti. I've forgotten because of the because of the break. Okay, so if he was going to use Gear Fourth, then you're right. He is struggling. I think, and we also saw Zoro of all people struggling against against a lot of the gifters or whatever. I can't remember if they were gifters or whatever the other name for them is. But the smile users. That's what I'm thinking. The smile users.
Okay.
And they were they were really taking them out. And also with Ulti and Page One just being able to get back up after Luffy beat them down. Because of the Dino Devil Fruit shit, the Zoan durability, it's gonna be, it looks like they're not. It doesn't look like Luffy's like couple weeks of training was enough, is what I'm saying.
Until he gets his magical power up, and from the king of the pirates to another king, the king of all insects. I have opinions about Mori King. First of all, Mori King, I apologize for shitting on you last week. You had a very, very good chapter this week. So in this chapter, the girl is at school, and of course, Mori King, your human rhinoceros beetle. So he is a rhinoceros beetle, but he has the body of a human for plot reasons. So he went. Of course, everyone at the school is talking about like, oh, is that your boyfriend? Is that your boyfriend? A little bit of wacky hijinks. But they end up like doing a time capsule thing where they dig up memories from the past. And Mori King goes into this speech about the thing that matters for people versus like other life forms is the ability to maintain memories, because he himself as an insect, his lifespan is not very long.
Right.
And I thought it was a nice deep chapter with trying to bring a message to its audience. And of course, I want to talk about one of the things he says in that speech is, oh, because I only have till autumn. So that makes sense as, lifespan of an insect. It is the summer currently in that series. But Kage, do you think this is the author's way of telling us he's going to get canceled?
When I read that line, I also was very suspicious of that line because I'm like, my first thought was like, is this an in canon thing of saying like Mora King is gonna die, is gonna die, like before he becomes king or something like that, or he's gonna become king and then just die or whatever, as you know, a meta idea of like this series is not doing so hot and it might get canceled. Um, that would be a really subtle way of breaking it to the audience that that's going to happen. I'm looking at the page right now, and it's really interesting, and it's interestingly framed because it's like this girl handing him like it's the generic like please go out with me like note that you see in an anime, but you know he's like starkly serious. He's like my life will only last through autumn. You know, it's like this is a comedy manga, so of course they would like play it off as a joke. But is this you know is this the author's way of just letting the audience down easy? That you know, hey, I if you like this series, I'm sorry, but it's not going to last very for much longer, or something like that. Especially with the uh, whole overhanging theme of like memories and themes and making the best out of your time while you got it. It's like, damn, that's deep. That's deep for this comedy series.
Yep, exactly. That's what I mean as evidence.
Mhm.
I the author. I'm telling you, cherish these memories of the time we had,
Mhm.
because we're not gonna get any more Mori King.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about another aspiring king today. Kage is gonna tell us a bit about Black Clover.
Okay. Like my co-host here, I want to apologize for crapping on Black Clover last week. Um, I don't actually think it was the worst, one of the worst of last week. I actually thought it was a pretty good chapter. I just kind of forgot it, forgot about it, and that's why I thought it wasn't like remarkable. But it was actually pretty good. It involves one of my favorite characters, Yami, fighting. I really like Yami. Um, Fighting like the big bad of the arc, or at least who I assume is the big bad. Um, and you know, I Black Clover for me is a weird series because I really, really want to like it because everyone I know likes it, or at least my little brother likes it, and he really likes it, and so I tried to get into it. I've tried to get into it. I watched the anime and I've read the manga, but it just hasn't clicked for me yet. Actually, well, it hasn't clicked for me fully, but there is one character that that I like even more than Yami, and it's this character called Zora Ideal. He should be the main character of Black Clover because he is a much more interesting and complex character than Asta could ever hope to be. But that's a conversation for another day. Uh, but I do want to apologize. I will give Black Clover its pass. But this week was really interesting because finally what I have wanted to happen in Black Clover since Black Clover began has finally happened. Um, Black Clover has finally done its Naruto. It is finally pulling a Naruto uh, more than Naruto has pulled its own Naruto. It's doing the thing where the inner demon is finally like taking charge and saying, "Hey kid, you want some power? I'll give you some power, but I'm gonna have to take something from you." And I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen to Asta at the end of this. Like, what is he gonna have to give up to get this like devil power? Because they're also fighting devils, like the bad guys have their own devils too now. And I'm really curious what's gonna happen from this. Yes, it's a arc, it's a plot that I've seen before. I've just brought up Naruto. There's Bleach, but I am very curious to see what's gonna happen here because I have been waiting for this thing to happen since like the very start of the manga. And that's all I have to say.
So just so you guys are aware, currently around volume 5 of Black Clover. I think it is a pretty solid battle shonen manga, but it's not as interesting or compelling as some of its contemporaries like My Hero.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get there eventually. And for the final, well, actually, he's not a king, but he might as well be the king of Jump right now. We're gonna go talk about Chainsaw Man.
Yes. Okay. So this chapter of Chainsaw Man is like one of my it's tied for like my favorite thing that's happened this week. So Chainsaw Man this week was really really interesting because it was just a story told with minimal dialogue and just all metaphor and panels and pictures, and it was really compelling of Aki and Denji and Power technically, but she doesn't really do anything, fighting, and it's told through this metaphor of them having a snowball fight, and you just like it intercuts these these panels of them having throwing snowballs with Aki, who is possessed by the gun devil, shooting his gun powers off and causing like major damage to the surrounding area and Denji. And at the end of the chapter, Denji says, I'm scrolling, Mom and Dad are always fussing. I never had this much fun before. Mom and Dad are always fussing over Taiyo. They never pay attention to me. But now my life has finally gotten kind of fun. What I think is happening here is the gun devil, when the gun devil possesses you, maybe he frames all of the violence that he's causing as like fun, as like a game. And I think that's really interesting. I think that's really interesting as we see like the different kinds of devils in this series and what they what they kind of stand for, what they're, we have the future devil, which is all about
The future is best.
the future is best. We have Makima, spoilers, that she's the control devil. It's really interesting to see this from his perspective, and it's also very sad because across this manga, and it's only chapter 78, mind you, across this 78 chapters, Aki and Denji started from like not fucking liking each other to now are like bros. They even had the tournament arc, the infamous tournament arc, which I'm not even gonna spoil.
Don't talk about the tournament arc.
I'm not gonna talk about the tournament arc. I want people to go read and find out about the tournament arc, the best tournament arc in Jump. But we even had moments like that together, and just seeing like the end of this chapter end with like Denji lying in a bloody pool on the ground with gun devil Aki standing over him, and it's just so sad. And I just want to know what the fuck happens next. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I have nothing more to say about this chapter. I think you hit all the points. The only thing that this chapter makes by using the snowball fight is get away from censorship.
Yes, that also could have been a reason why the snowball fight was used. And if that's like limitations making better art, I'm all for that.
I mean, you can get away with some crazy stuff in Jump in terms of violence. Chainsaw Man has gotten away with some real hardcore stuff, and Chainsaw Man is like the watered down version of Fire Punch. But still, I don't think Japan would like it if you just have a guy shooting people in the head for 18 straight panels. So those are our highlights for the week. Now we're going to deep dive into Time Paradox Ghost Rider. Paradox Ghost Rider is one of the newest series in Jump. It is written by Kenji Ichima and drawn by Tsunehiro Date. The premise of Time Paradox Ghost Rider, as you might have heard in their previous episode, is this down on his luck guy trying to be a successful manga writer, but not having enough talent and skills to be able to get into Weekly Shonen Jump. It is a manga about people making manga. So for unforeseen reasons, he starts receiving the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine from 10 years in the future. In that magazine, there's a series called White Knight, which is the ultimate best shonen manga ever created. Believing it is a dream, he then plagiarizes the work. The way the series been going is his internal struggle of should I continue plagiarizing this work because he found success by doing this, but he is not sure if he should continue. But at the same time, by not continuing, he is depriving the world of the best manga it ever had. And eventually, he meets the person who would be the actual mangaka for that series in the future, and they sort of become friends in a way. And now we're gonna like talk about really what's going on in this series and why we like it so much.
So this chapter, this episode of this podcast is just the episode where I put my foot in my mouth about everything. This chapter was everything that I was complaining about last time. It is the story of Iki Aino, the female lead, the main female co-protagonist of Ghost Rider that the main protagonist stole the manga from in the future. And it is her backstory of why and how she got into manga. She meets this like old man in the park who's just sitting with a stack of manga that looks suspicious as hell, but they form a friendship, and he talks about how he was a failed manga artist, but you know his dreams never really worked out. So he inspires her to want to look for her dreams. And one day he just disappears and leaves the stack of manga that he was carrying, along with a suspicious looking toy robot, and tells her to, you know, follow the dream that he couldn't, you know, fulfill. And so she starts from a young age drawing manga constantly until we're caught up to the present, where she has created her new work. And she believes this work is still not good enough. She can't compromise her feelings. There's too much of her own personality in it to reach the far-reaching audience that she wants to reach. Also, I didn't mention it earlier in the little backstory with her and the old man. The old man's goal was to create a manga that everyone would love. That was his dream, but he wasn't able to do it. All of humanity would enjoy is his words. And she starts, you know, suppressing parts of herself so that her personality won't bleed through into the pages that she's writing. And we see her like meeting with the editor that she has now because her series is going to be put in Jump, and the editor tells her, you know, she's also going to get an anime series. She's #1 in the surveys, and she just keeps pushing herself, not even sleeping. You know, just keep drawing manga. She doesn't even have any assistants anymore. She just wants to just keep drawing her manga, you know, without any I wouldn't say restraints, but without anyone else to help her. She's so hyper focused on this idea, and at the end of the chapter, she asks herself like, why am I drawing again? Why do I even care about this? But then she has a second thought of like, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna keep doing it, and she keeps doing this until the last page of the chapter is her with her ink spilled on the floor to, you know, look like blood, and she's just fainted and collapsed on the floor of her studio. And yeah, this was to say this was my favorite chapter of the week was really easy to say. Easy to say that this knocked everything else out of the park for me. And if this series gets canceled, shit, this is what I wanted. This is the chapter that I wanted. Anything you got anything to say, Hibaro?
Yes, I have a lot of things to say about this chapter. It was very deep. It is doing the thing that Ghost Rider has been doing for these past 10 weeks of making you think about manga. You know, you usually like I think a lot about fighting manga because I like to. Oh yeah, that was good. I like thinking about it. But when a series makes you think about life and the reason people make choices and how it affects their lives. One thing I forgot to mention when talking about what's going on in Paradox Ghost Rider is the main character receive a warning from the future that this woman is going to die in 10 years. So he has to create a better manga than her in order to prevent her from dying. So now we understand why she's going to die. She's just going to kill herself working so hard. Trying to attain the unattainable goal. Let's mention first the little robot, super suspicious. Theory is, I think he's the main character from the future. He traveled back in time to set her in the path, to set her in the path to being a mangaka. Because the main character has that same little robot on top of his. Oh, Kage. I could go in the first chapter and check myself, but didn't he say like his best friend got him that robot?
Yes, he did. I was thinking about that as well. Yes.
So is maybe old man not him from the future, but like
They could be the
he needed these two people to do manga?
maybe could be.
Interesting. That being said, the how the time travel stuff works doesn't really matter in this series. It gets pushed aside to be like, just enjoy the story. Don't worry about the implications of time travel.
I mean, that's how. I don't remember where I heard this from, but that's how time travel generally should be handled in stories. Just a framework to hang like a deeper story on top of. That's why Back to the Future works, because we're not thinking about the dumbass time travel that works in there, but we are thinking about Marty McFly almost like bleeping out of existence because we like that character.
Yeah, and comic books, time travel is just a mess. No, if you want, we could do like a 40-minute episode of discussing future Trunks.
Tell us in the comments.
Do you think it's possible for an artist to create art that is not influenced by who they are?
It's possible, but it's not. Why would you want to do that? As an artist, I don't want to be like on a high horse. I'm an artist or whatever, but like as a person who makes things, makes games, makes music, a lot of like art is yourself. It is self expression, and what I think is interesting, because I've been studying a lot of, like, I've been reading a lot of like game design books that talk about like writing, that talk about like the creative process, how do you get the creative process started. One thing that they talked about in there was, some games won't hit everybody. Like there's always going to be a demographic or a group of people that don't like your game. And that's because everyone is made differently. Everyone's brain is wired differently, and everyone has different experiences that make them. So her goal of making like a manga that's gonna, essentially touch all of humanity is such a fool's errand. And it's really interesting, like, that would be the antagonistic force, because Ghost Rider is obviously not going to have like an evil villain, but this drive that she has, this impossible goal that she's trying to achieve, is what our main boy is going to have to defeat. And I think that's really, really interesting. But as like far as why would you want to make a piece of manga that isn't representative of your own personalities? Because some of my favorite stuff, One Piece, JoJo, No More Heroes, Killer 7, I could go on and on. Even like some like rap albums that I'm very fond of are only as good as they are because they take the idiosyncrasies of said creator and make them palatable for the audience. And some people will get it and some people won't, and that's just kind of the beauty of art. If everyone got it, it wouldn't be interesting or compelling.
So one thing from the earlier chapters is the editors at Jump tell the main character that if he has nothing original that represents himself, he shouldn't be writing manga at all. So I love that the antagonist of the series, it's doing the exact opposite. She is removing herself from the equation, yet her manga is the best or the most compelling. I don't think she's necessarily wrong. She's not doing this from a villainous standpoint. She is not doing it for money. She is not doing it for recognition. She just wants to provide the best art people can consume. And you touch upon it. I don't think it exists. There's no ultimate art. There's no series that everyone will love. So I do believe, with experience, you can sort of remove yourself a bit from the art you're creating. I want to use as an example Chainsaw Man and Hunter x Hunter. So Hunter x Hunter, which is one of the best works in Jump, doesn't feel like it's 100% Togashi as you would have seen him acting Yu Yu Hakusho. Outside of Greed Island, because Greed Island was like his pet project that didn't go anywhere. Feel free to hate me, Kage. So in Hunter x Hunter, he was like, he made a methodical manga that would just work and be exciting, but it feels like it's work. He worked hard to establish, this is what came before, this is what I did before, this is what I can do to take the tropes, take the main ideas of a shonen manga, and make the best version of it. Chainsaw Man, it's this guy just speaking his mind, just using a guy with chainsaws in his arm. I don't want to go into like Fire Punch because everyone should read Fire Punch. But the whole reason for that series to exist is not ridiculous because I understood him. But it is like the most, oh, I like this thing, and since I like this thing, nothing else matters. It's full of his personality and emotions. To the point where his chapter structure sometimes makes no sense.
It's very true.
He could spend 10 pages essentially on one scene.
Halloween.
Sometimes he can. Oh, and when he went with Makima on a date.
Yep, when you went Makima on a date.
And then sometimes it's just, let's just kill things. Let's just fight because the antagonists are really powerful in Chainsaw. And to a lesser degree, I'm gonna say Oda. Oda pours all of his feelings into his manga. I have no smart way of saying it. You just can tell it's him.
I agree with what you're saying, of course, about Chainsaw and One Piece. I kind of disagree a little bit about Hunter. I know you were just trying to I think you were just trying to find like a kind of generic-y manga. I would argue, we were just talking about Black Clover. I would say that one kind of fits that one. It's not like derivative, but it is very like, it feels like middle of the road because there's not a lot of this author in it, and I think that's kind of what I feel about it. But I'll say a couple more words. I think Hunter does have a lot of Togashi in it. You could see this, and you probably forgot about this. Do you remember the part in during the Phantom Troop arc that I really really hate, where he talks about what is it? Where they meet the appraiser, the treasure appraiser or whatever, and they talk about.
Yeah, I remember telling you that he got editor out. Well, the editors told them to stop with that shit. It's bleeding in and it's making the great arc less good.
We were reading the volumes at the time, and there is a part where it's like him and his wife went to Egypt, and they were like, they were learning about that stuff. So I do think there is a little bit of Togashi in Hunter. I would definitely say his like art, like the way he like writes characters and stuff. I wouldn't say like a Togashi manga is like, I could say like, oh, this Tagashi manga is like this other manga, because not really. You could say, I would say, if you want to say something's like kind of maybe lacking in personality a little bit, maybe Yu Yu like a little bit, because Yu Yu is very like, I'm a strong boy. I mean, yes, Yusuke is a deep character. I love Yusuke. Yusuke is one of my favorite characters because I love the punk boys. But I'm a strong character boy. I have secret magical spirit powers that I don't really explain all that much. Here's Toguro, who's like stronger than me. He's like the evil version of me. You know, all of that's been
Okay.
kind of done before.
What I was trying to get at is how good Hunter x Hunter is. Yes, he shows his personality in that series. But what I mean is, he is doing the calculated way of doing manga, and you can tell it works that way because of the way Nen works, right? Yu Yu Hakusho, while I still like it very much, it's just like your standard manga.
Yep.
It's just trying to compare the. You can make a great manga by sacrificing a bit of yourself and just like trying to make the best work possible versus I'm just gonna do whatever the hell I want because that's what I am.
Even Samurai 8, where it's weird, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it jumps around a lot. Even though it failed, it's still Kishimoto, because it's still like doing like what Kishimoto likes to do. He likes to play on those like Japanese mythical that like Japanese cultural things, the samurai, the gods, the Japanese gods, and all of that kinds of stuff. So yeah, I think it's impossible to make a work that yourself bleeds into, and Ghost Rider is doing something interesting. It's doing something amazing right now.
Thank you for mentioning Samurai 8. That's a good example.
Yes.
The Samurai 8, it's all Kishimoto. And Samurai 8 is not good. So just being yourself, just displaying what your thoughts are, what your state of mind is not enough to do a good manga.
Right. I'm very interested in where Ghost Rider is going to go from here. Like that panel of Itsuki on the floor just makes me want more. And I was not trying to make that rhyme, but it just really makes me want to know what's going to happen next week. And I think we're getting a break next week, so
Because she's gonna get out of the hospital.
yeah, she's got to get out of the hospital. Yeah, we're getting a break this week, so we're not even so we're gonna have to wait to see. And I just want to know. I just want to know what's going to happen next, and I look forward to it.
On a side note, Kage, did you ever read Gengaku Picasso?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so this series is very similar, has a very similar feel to Gengaku Picasso. I'm not gonna go in deep what that series was about, but it's very much about the state of mind of people. I just want to let people know that that's a series that's available on the Jump app. It's like only 2 volumes long. It's not that long, but it's really really deep. And I know you would really like it because you like Persona.
I do like Persona. Specifically, I like 4 and 5. I like 4 and 5.
Yeah, but the idea of Persona of the
Inner
of
self.
the selves, yes.
Yes.
So speaking of ourselves, we're gonna go into our next section of the podcast, where we're gonna rank the what we thought were the top 3 series this week and the 2 worst. And best does not mean necessarily that it was best in quality, because opinions are hard to quantify. Usually, what we mean is it was either technically good, something amazing happened, or we just really really liked it. So I'm gonna go first if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So this week I thought the best chapter was Time Paradox Ghost Rider. On second place, I would put Act H. I don't want to talk about much what happened in Act H because Kage is not there yet. And on the third spot, surprisingly, Mori King. I believe it was a very nice chapter. How about you, Kage?
I really liked a lot of the chapters this week. My number one, of course, is probably going to be Ghost Rider as well. My number two is probably Chainsaw. I'm going to give my number three to One Piece.
Ooh.
I'm going to give my number three to One Piece because I'm going to make a special mention, though, for Stone and Mora King because yes, I did like both of those chapters. I'm gonna give to One Piece because we didn't really talk about it too much because it was just like the highlight section. But I really like there was a lot of things in this One Piece chapter. I don't think One Piece was the best this week, not at all. But I think there are a lot of great things in this One Piece chapter that content wise was like holy shit. Oda's like setting up for like the next 100 chapters or something, right? Like, he killed a major character, seemingly killed. That the jury's still out on that. Seemingly killed a major character. He maybe dropped a this might be a new crewmate. This might be a new Straw Hat. He got Kaido and Big Mom that they for real not fucking around. They're about to like take over the world and you know beat everybody's ass. So I'm very excited for that. It was a good week for One Piece. Not the best week, but a good week for One Piece. All the same. Yeah, but special mention for Moor King and special mention for Bone Collection. Let's see how that one goes.
Ooh. Okay, so I know I skipped the Act H talk to avoid spoilers, but what's currently going on is they're going into the one of the newer characters is having her realization of who she is in life and who she is next to these other two characters. Good stuff. Good stuff. Very. It almost toppled Ghost Rider for me. That's how good it was.
Ooh, I just made it to the play arc, so
Ooh.
yeah, and it's starting really good. I just made it there last night, and I'm like just at the beginning.
So how are you liking the Myojin character?
He's cool. I like that he is. I wouldn't call him a foil to Yanagi, but he's definitely. I guess he'll be like a master or something. I guess all of her rivals will eventually be masters, but I'm curious to see where their dynamic goes from here. He seems cool though. He seems like one of my favorite characters, and I also like the fact that the play is full of like rowdy characters. I'm loving that so far.
Man, I'm gonna wait until you at least finish the Princess Iron fan play. Oh no, you're not even a Princess Iron fan. You're at Starlight Express, right?
That's exactly where I'm at. Yep.
Oh no, because I was thinking like we should talk about Act H as a deep dive next week. No, you're not ready yet.
I'm not ready yet. No.
Oh, but man, it's good. It's really good. It's really good.
Oh, also special mention for a Gravity Boys. That big piece of broccoli was gonna like destroy Babuzlagi's butthole, and it was hilarious. I was dying. I was dying.
Yeah, I should have mentioned a Gravity, considering I really hyped the Gravity last week. They doubled down on all the broccoli up your butt stuff. It was great.
Do you think the broccoli magnum was a One Piece reference? I wasn't for sure.
I don't know. Also, Kage, why do broccoli have like buttons on them that can make them explode and shit?
They were specially engineered broccoli in a machine. That's
The good chapters where real good things are said and talked about were better than this wacky comedy series, guys.
Yes.
But it was really good this week. Speaking of comedy and antagonists, the antagonist of fun this week was Undead Unluck. And I want to say why I think this chapter of Undead Unluck was the worst chapter of the week.
Go for it.
We had a bit of a cliffhanger last chapter because girl got injured. They just stopped whatever the hell they were doing and apparently went back and used a backup chapter. Because it introduced a character that maybe he was introduced before, but we never really seen him do anything. So this robot ball character would have been relevant 20 chapters ago when Undead and Unlucky fought this girl. I don't remember what her powers were. On H or something like that. Good chapters. Really interesting ideas that were set in those chapters about like to continue doing the things you're doing and change, or is it better to be stagnant and unchanging? So after they defeat this character, they join the team, and so this new character is like, oh, I can't forgive you for beating so and so. I must fight you. I don't accept you as part of this organization. That should have happened back then, not now. Because then you have like a weird resolution, and you get at the last page like suddenly guy in the robot is the only person that can heal girl, and the development was just horrible. It just came out of nowhere. It's going nowhere. My guess is he didn't have enough time to do a better chapter, and he just used a backup chapter.
Oh, is that what you thought? Is that I thought her power was like the Tatiana. I thought her power was like she was about to like really fuck some guys up. I didn't think she was gonna be the one to heal. I thought like they
Okay, if I'm not misremembering, they bring her like she's gonna die if we don't do something about it.
That's why I thought she was like, oh, all right, it's time to get serious and break out of this shell and like really fuck everything. That's the impression. I'm scrolling through to the end right now just to make sure. Yeah, just like hold on, I'm coming to save you. You're not getting away with hurting someone special. I'll pulverize every last one of you. Unrepair got her. Yeah, I think she's just gonna beat their asses. But that doesn't change the fact that yeah, they pulled some shit where they're like, let's for half a chapter do like a little backstory that could have been a full chapter by itself. When they were doing wacky hijinks when they first, when they first entered the organization of the what is their organization even called?
I don't remember.
The Gators, yeah, the Gator organization. I still think I myself also did not like that, and I was like, well, this is kind of lazy. Yeah.
You're right. They're not going to heal her, but it doesn't take away from the point that this wasn't a very good chapter.
No.
And for the second worst, I'm sad to say, Mitama was the second worst chapter this week. Yeah, whatever, Kage, whatever. If Undead Unluck had nothing to say this week, Mitama had less of a thing to do this week. I think he just paid like a kid to write it for him. He was bad. It did nothing for any characters. It did nothing for comedy. I'm sad because I really like Mitama, but it was really, really, really bad. At least last week's had like a silver lining on. We did something nice. Yeah. Fuck Mitama this week. What about you, Kage?
Mine is very much the same, but in a different order. I would say Mitama was worse than Undead. At least I was entertained by Undead. I don't think I enjoyed that Mitama chapter at all. Like I may have giggled like a couple of times, but Undead at least moves the plot along kind of. Yeah, Mitama was just kind of like I feel like in my notes I have the chapter hinged upon us, the audience, finding that final joke about her. Oh, let's not be a YouTuber after all. Like funny. If you didn't find that joke funny, then you wouldn't have found like her dancing around and all that other stuff funny because she was trying to like take a picture for her resume anyway or something. It was kind of crap. It was kind of crap. I would say that was my first worst, and I would say Undead was my second worst.
Okay. So before we're done with the best and worst, why 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 would you say Bone Collection was good this week?
I was waiting for this. Okay, so we talked off podcast, and I know you have issues with Bone Collection, almost kind of similar issues that you have with Undead. But I think the execution of Bone was a little bit better because instead of being a backstory chapter, or not a backstory, instead of being like a flashback, it was all present, and I really like the relationship that formed between Pyra and Runa, the fox girl. Uh, I, I think it was a really good way of let's put it this way. I think it was a really good way of making us invested in her getting kidnapped, so that main boy and main girl can overcome their differences and go save her. Was it sloppy? Yes, it was very, very, very sloppy. But I think it was kind of interesting, at least, that within this small chapter they were trying to set up the motivation, set up the motivation, give the payoff, and like set up the villain. Also, QB literally just coming down and murdering like half of the exorcists that they brought with them makes me think that this guy is gonna be tough shit, and I'm very excited to see like that fight. It just makes me excited.
That is why I didn't like this chapter. Not because of what it was trying to do. It's because they were trying to accomplish three different things in one chapter. Like last week, we got introduced to the idea that they were going to do a little training arc,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly you have the boy and girl character. What the training arc is going to be? Oh, you're going to be in sync. Well, guess what? By the end of the chapter, they were in sync.
Right.
Uh, I didn't like how it flowed. I don't know. And QB just showing up like out of nowhere, like, "Hi, I just killed people. Now you're gonna fight me. Oh, we're ready to fight you next week." If it had been done in at least two chapters, where they could have had a bit more time for them to bicker amongst each other and then come to the conclusion that, oh, we have a common goal, it would have flowed better. But I think part of what made it sloppy for me is it might be trying to not wrap things up as if the series was ending, but like trying to get it to a higher level before they get the you're gonna get canceled. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I think this chapter is falling victim to the. Okay, so how am I gonna talk about this? I don't want this to blow up to like a big conversation, but I feel like the end of this chapter is falling victim to what I like to call the Shonen Jump cliffhanger thing. Do you remember in One Piece where they were fighting Doflamingo and Doflamingo tells Law, haha Law, like Law's not even on panel, but he's like looking down at Law. What are you gonna do when Luffy comes up here and finds you dead or something like that? And like we don't know if Law is dead or not. Like, Law could be dead because we have been watching like Oda move the camera elsewhere, right? I think like these two characters, like him pulling his hand, from her chest, and then like, yes, we are in sync now. We don't know that they're gonna be in sync the whole time because they could still struggle, across the arc. They could still struggle getting to the QB. I just think like it wanted to end on a strong panel of those two, like, we're gonna go rescue her, and so now we're in sync or whatever, or something like that. I think they're still gonna have some like struggles of like being in sync because they haven't really fixed the character drama between the two. I just think they're able to put aside for right now, or for that instance at least too. Like, how would you feel if, like, in the in the first page of the next chapter, like their connection breaks off or whatever?
We'll see. You know, we'll see. Now you were telling me something of podcast about why you like the idea of the soul power between main character and demon girl.
I think soul power it reminds me a lot of, like, it reminds me a lot. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Men too, but it reminds me a little bit of Hyogatai from, like, Shaman King, where the ghosts, like in Shaman King, like their powers are like spirits and ghosts and deities and all of that. But, like, the shaman would be able to, like, take the ghost into their body and gain like 100% of that spirit's abilities. And I think I really like that power of Bone Collector, because it reminds me a lot of that idea of, like, being in sync or whatever. I guess you could also say there's a bit of being in sync in Soul Eater as well. But I think it's very similar to how it was portrayed in, like, Shaman King, and how it's portrayed here are very, very similar. And I think it's really, really interesting.
So apparently, this is the episode of Kings. We only be talking about Kings in this episode. As we mentioned earlier, Shaman King is coming to Comixology, the whole series, official translation for the first time. Technically, my view on Shaman King is it is the perfect young teenager manga.
Yeah, yeah, I agree to that. Yeah.
And it's nice that we're gonna have an official way of reading it.
Yes.
'Cause, I haven't like looked at scans for it. Like I was a bit of context. Like my nephew, he's 10 years old. He finally got into manga, and this was the series I wanted to get him, but I couldn't get it. I need to find out why Jump hates the author so much. Just like Shaman King and Jump and manga in general, there's so many things I never could see. So many choices falling on me. Could it be my destiny to continue reading Jump?
Oh, okay.
Yes. Kage, any closing comments on this podcast in general?
Uh, Go read Jump. Go pay $1.99 to get the whole Jump vault. It's good. I think they just add something new too, something recent. I can't remember right now, but yeah, it's good. Go read Shaman King, Hiroyuki Takei. Good author. It's good work.
You can follow me at Jibaro Premium on Twitter. You can also follow me and my wife's little business called Create Spire at, I think, Instagram and Facebook.
You can follow me at Negro Kage on Twitter, Negro Kage TV on Twitter. You can follow me on YouTube, Negro Kage. You can follow me on itch.io if you want to play some games at Black Mamba Jesus. And you can follow the podcast at Jam Shonen on Twitter.
So, Kage, last things before closing this episode. One non-manga thing you would recommend people to experience this week?
One non-manga thing that people to experience this week. If you like video games, play No More Heroes. That's my favorite video game of all time. And No More Heroes 3 is about to come out, so play No More Heroes 1 on Wii or PS3, whatever you got.
So, tied to the Haikyuu discussion, I really recommend everyone to go and watch the docuseries The Last Dance. It's about the 90s Bulls and Michael Jordan specifically. It is so compelling. And I don't even like sports, but as a child of the 90s, it's history, man. It's history and it's compelling as fuck. It's like as if I was reading Slam Dunk again. Because Kage knows there are two things in life that gets me playing basketball: Slam Dunk, and Space Jam and the 90s Bulls.
Oh, now I understand. Now I understand why you watch.
And speaking of Space Jam, that movie is excellent, and so is this podcast. Please follow us, give us likes on our pages. Thank you for listening.